Howdy fluffbutts, it's me, Faolan and Cortez Colt. Welcome back to the series that always reels in the views. I thought the previous review wouldn't get over 10 likes, but okay, I need to stop underestimating y'all. Time for another likes challenge. If you want to see a review created on the next episode, Bridal Gossip, make sure this review reaches 11 likes. Achieve that goal, and that review will be made. So press that button right now!
A button? Private, don't!
Right, now that the begging is over, let's start this review. Look before you sleep. Oh my god, I remember this episode. Funnily enough, this was the very first episode I watched from Friendship is Magic. This is probably going to be the shortest review so far because honestly, this episode is another mixed baggage of interesting and boring material. I can literally summarize Look Before You Sleep in 2 words. Slumber Party.
Slumber Party!
According to the writer of this story, this episode was originally going to be called Opposites Attack.
Look Before You Sleep, originally titled Opposites Attack,
which relates correspondingly to the tension that builds up between Rarity and Applejack. So far, we've had 5 different writers on the table. Lauren Faust, Amy Keating-Rogers, Cindy Morrow, Chris Savino, and Megan McCarthy. Now we're introducing a new one. Charlotte Fullerton. She was actually recommended to the show creator by Keating-Rogers, so you can get the idea of a writing team that are closely associated with one another.
Teamwork, friends forever!
Look Before You Sleep is all about Twilight hosting a slumber party with 2 of her friends and they try to have fun. But Applejack and Rarity's differences in friendship interfere with the sleepover, turning it more into a catastrophe. Is Look Before You Sleep a dream come true for introducing the Rarijack ship, or is it more of a nightmare with nothing to truly offer story-wise? Well, turn off your lights and put on a mud mask, because we are gonna dive deep into the ghost story that is Look Before You Sleep. If you didn't already notice, the episode is a pun on the famous quote, "Look before you leap," meaning that you should think twice before doing something that could be potentially bad. But I can officially say this early on that Look Before You Sleep hardly allows much to happen. Right from the beginning of this story, this episode features one of the longest prologues in the show's history, being nearly 3 minutes long. Like, why? Why? I know I complained about the short duration of Ghostbusters prologue, but those criticisms were rightfully deserved, as it didn't last long enough to set up important plot points that would be substantial later on. Look Before You Sleep's prologue felt somewhat empty, and it just went on and on.
Bored.
As we receive a nice panning shot of a soon-to-be cloudy day in Ponyville, we see that the ponies have been trimming down the town's trees in preparation for an oncoming storm. Great, now you're imagining Dr. Hooves, aren't ya? It would sound better coming out of him, huh?
The oncoming storm.
While the sudden demolishing of Rarity's fancy work surprised me a little, I found it easy to emphasize with AJ's reason why this happened.
They accidentally skipped a scheduled sprinkle last week, so we need a doozy of a downpour to make up for it is all.
This actually made me chuckle. It hands us a sense of realism to the viewer. Although Equestria is a fictional world, the fact that the Pegasi are just as unreliable as our own machines for predicting the weather helps gives this world believable correlation. But I do wish there was some evidence said why the Pegasi have responsibility for keeping the weather in check.
Think more practical-like, will ya?
We then get to see the first of AJ and Rarity's many excessive arguments. It's ultimately repetitive.
Y'all wouldn't know useful if it came up and bit you. That doesn't even make any sense.
It's the fact that they behave like immature children in the middle of an unfolding storm really makes this scene feel dragged out.
Well, and how does mugging my hooves serve any useful purpose?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe keeping your precious mane dry?
Does so, does not. Does so, does not. Does so, does not. Does so infinity. Ha! Does not infinity plus 1.
Ugh, just suck yourselves off already! The episode then begins with Twilight shouting out to AJ and Rarity to take shelter in her house. If you listen very carefully, you can hear Twilight's dialogue being repeated twice here. Not to mention them responding normally instead of shouting a second later.
Twilight, come inside, girls, quick.
There's no way they heard each other just then. AJ and Rarity take Twilight's warning, and upon entering, the cowgirl brings up a good question related to their current situation.
Is inside a tree really the best place to be in a lightning storm?
To which Twilight answers conveniently.
It is if you have a magical lightning rod protecting your home like I do.
Where is the rod?
We see an external shot of the house later on in the episode, and I don't see any Thor-defying lightning conductor outside.
I'm not surprised.
With quite a funny interruption with Rarity preventing AJ from being uncouth.
Do be a polite house guest and go wash up, please, won't you?
If you're wondering where Spike is, here's your answer.
Well, you're welcome to stay if need be. Spike is away in Canterlot on royal business.
What kind of business? Although this may be a critical opinion, but I support this idea of Spike being left out of this story. Comparing his confounding independence that was previously displayed in the first two-parter, Griffin the Broshoff and Dragonshy, I firmly believe that Spike has enough autonomy to travel alone to Canterlot in spite of his devotion to Twilight.
Never fear, Spike, your number one assistant, is here.
Twilight proposes that the three of them have a slumber party, and I didn't mind this idea until she said this line,
I've always wanted one of those.
which I couldn't take seriously. We all understood how isolative and detached from social life Twilight's character was before she became the element of magic, and her saying,
I've always wanted one of those.
just discredits her personality change.
Continuity.
Slumber 101. All you've ever wanted to know about slumber parties but were afraid to ask.
If you didn't know, that book's title is a namesake on the real book, Everything You've Wanted to Know About Sex. No fucking wonder Applejack and Rarity end up sleeping together. One thing I have to admire about this episode is its sound design. I love how you'll always hear continuous rain, thunder, or wind in the background.
So, how are you getting along over there, Applejack?
Just fine, Rarity.
How are you getting along over there, Applejack?
Just fine, Rarity.
As the slumber party hijinks start to come around, I did like the differences in Applejack and Rarity's approaches to having fun. Comparing AJ's farm life to Rarity's glamorous lifestyle, it lets the viewer indulge themselves into learning more about their characters.
What in the world is this for?
To reduce the puffiness around one's eyes, of course.
Puffiness, schmuffiness.
AJ and Rarity get into another argument again that was somewhat tolerable as they try to settle their feud on not spoiling Twilight's sleepover.
So do we have an agreement?
You betcha.
But yeah, it decided to drag on unnecessarily.
There's messy and there's just plain rude.
There's fussy and there's just plain getting on my nerves.
Blah, 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 blah.
Next part of the slumber party is all about
Makeovers.
Unfortunately, it ended quite abruptly before Twilight can even finish scribbling notes.
Makeovers, check.
What? Why not give us the satisfaction of seeing their manes all curly? Almost none of the recreations shown are given enough screen time for the audience to truly appreciate. It feels rushed. Look Before You Sleep does have the fun aesthetic of a slumber party, but it does it carelessly, feeling more like a slumber party. Oi, Crunch.
Get out!
This isn't your review.
Ta-ta for now.
I struggle to understand how Twilight doesn't instantly catch on to their dislike for each other. I find it so laughable how Twilight was able to establish the tension that built up in the main six in the Ticketmaster, yet here she can't process the impression that things aren't looking smoothly between two people.
Juvenile.
Truth be told, the Ghost Stories segment did catch my eye though. The dark visuals were nice, and it was interesting to hear the tale of a supposed headless horse.
And 3 ponies were having a slumber party. Just like this one.
But then it cut straight to this.
And just when the last pony thought she was safe,
Ah, what? No! Don't leave out the juicy details that I want to hear. The fear factor of this scene was quickly belittled.
Oh, scary. Oh, shiver my timbers. Shut up, man.
Then we got a moment devoted to eating s'mores, and I was most relatable to Applejack in this sequence.
Nah, you just ate them.
Better out than in, I always say.
The slumber party dishes out another activity for the girls to do, which is truth or dare. And you know what? I rather liked this bit. It was rather comedic seeing Rarity and AJ stepping into each other's shoes, aka Rarity getting wet in the rain and Applejack dressing up elegantly. This came with the cost of me feeling bad for Twilight being forgotten by them as they lash out again.
I dare you to enter the next rodeo when it comes to town. I dare you not to enter the next rodeo that comes to town. I dare you to not comb your mane 100 times before bed. And I dare you to comb yours just once.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
Next up was a pillow fight segment, and this one has got to be my favorite bit of frolicking to watch. The many different camera angles and shots give off a wild atmosphere. The accompanying music, along with Twilight hilariously getting caught in the crossfire, was just the icing on the cake. Even AJ and Rarity's clash didn't bother me at all, because it was so short.
I will if she will. She started it.
Finally, we come to the crux of the story. The bedroom scene. This is the section I remember the most. Apart from me repeating it over and over when I was 17 years old, AJ and Rarity's typical differences in friendship didn't get said much, and it was sort of funny to see them catfight over a blanket.
Get up!
Geronimo!
But yet again, this scene was let down by another familiar issue. It's ridiculous how Twilight doesn't hear any ruckus literally in front of her.
Give it back! I will not! Yes, you will! Will! Get up!
What follows after her well-timed rant makes up positively for what was the majority of the episode. The storm causes a tree to crash into Twilight's house, thanks to AJ's lovely assistance. Let me tell you why this 4-minute segment is one of the best scenes in Season 1. First of all, Applejack is without her hat for once. That was just wonderfully surprising. Secondly, the conflictions now actually felt justified, with the tree invading their personal space.
What in tarnation are y'all doing over there? Cleaning up this mess some pony made. Who was that again? Oh right, that's you!
What a nice comeback, Rarity. And thirdly, all of this leads to a great scene when AJ and Rarity come to terms with each other and apologize before putting their differences aside.
Look, I'm sorry, alright? I should have listened to you when you noticed where this here branch would end up.
You can see the collapse in Applejack's face as she finally accepts the blame.
Let's do this.
The display of Rarity's confidence in her face was awesome too. Sometimes you have to get your hoofs dirty in order to do the right thing.
I look awful. Better? Thanks. Well, they do have a section about backyard slumber parties. Is that what we're doing right now? Does this count as camping?
Twilight, you live in a tree. Technically, you're always camping. Wow, I never really thought of it like that. This episode's epilogue may have been as long as the prologue was, but this one was more gratifying. I was happy watching the three of them just chatting away and enjoying themselves. Notice the attention to detail, with Applejack not having the makeover like Twilight and Rarity are, a tiny addition that helps pay off the epilogue in a contrasting way to the beginning.
It's hard to believe that two ponies who seem to have so little in common could ever get along. But I found out that if you embrace each other's differences, you just might be surprised to discover a way to be friends after all.
This friendship lesson is so realistic, showing that literally anyone that has a different hobby, passion, or likeness in something else to your own interests, they can still become your friend if you really try hard enough. And finally, to wrap up this mishmash episode, the storm subsides with the clouds shifting to reveal a blazing sun. A good sight, but one more thing. Where are the Pegasi moving them?
How dare you mess with my emotion?
How dare you indeed, episode. So, repeat this after me, fluffbutts. Was it a yay or a nay? It's at times like these where I have to say, lost potential. I can't believe how many possibilities were buried in this episode to give it that extra flair for a better visual and narrative experience. The story leaves a lot to be desired. The activities and amusing moments barely held this episode's integrity together. We're in the middle again, aren't we? There's no doubt about this result. I'm giving this episode an average. Look Before You Sleep is ultimately a one-off story that's meant to provide a slice of leisure. While I do appreciate the slumber party concept it took and played around with, the rewatch value afterwards feels extremely hollow when you know how everything plays out. The characters' performances were delightful to watch as always, and as much as I may hate the countless fights AJ and Rarity had, it provided a marvelous lesson in friendship diversity. I liked watching how certain games and recreations would apply in an equestrian world. It's just unfortunate that none of them had the chance of being fully implemented for an enjoyable thrill. There was the occasional spotlight shot sprinkled in, but in other parts, I had the impression that the writing was kind of boring and slightly uninspired. Perhaps if I was tired or ill one day, I wouldn't mind turning on this episode for a bit of fun. Next time on Yay or Nay though, we will cover one of the most criticized episodes of Season 1. I cannot wait. Give this video 11 likes and the bridal gossip review will become a reality. I award Look Before You Sleep an average and a 5 out of 10. This episode is really strange to rank because it feels like two of them, but I can't go too harsh on this episode for it being my first viewing of MLP, so I suppose I'll give Look Before You Sleep a C rank on the Season 1 tier list. Despite all of the wasted opportunities that were thrown away, I still somewhat enjoyed this story. If you don't want a big stakes plot and you're looking for something more relaxed, I can definitely say that this episode is for you. Woo! Thank you so much for watching my 8th MLP review, fluffbutts. I seriously hope you have enjoyed, and I seriously cannot wait for the 9th episode to come about. Do be sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to my channel for more exciting content coming soon. Also, leave a comment down below on what your thoughts are on Look Before You Sleep, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye!